For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber. Instant analysis of USC's 14th practice of spring, the penultimate practice, only one remaining practice left. So we were told on Tuesday the last two practices were going to be full pads, live tackling, all that good stuff. But today was a little different than what we were told. Shoulder pads only, a little bit of a, not that physical of a practice, but they were still able to get in situational work. Helton said they did the final situational period where they're working on overtime stuff. And the third to last play was a spectacular interception by Ajene Harris on a ball thrown by Jack Sears. So we got some flashes of good defensive plays, some quarterback play. So it was an interesting day today.
And really windy.
Yeah,
If we want to mention that. And to conclude the 14th and last regular practice, although we're gonna, they keep telling you, don't say it's a spring game. It's not a game. It's TV programming for the Pac-12 network. They come on at noon, and from noon to 1 will be the programming. And they're right. It's going to be on Cromwell Field. You can't really play a game there just because of the fact that you got the pits, all the different various things. You got very little room on the sidelines. It would almost be malpractice to actually have anything other than a controlled situation. And then we find out we've got maybe some more people that aren't going to be there that we hadn't planned on. So like Andrew Vorhees. So today at practice you got Andrew Vorhees out with a little meniscus trim job that he going to keep him out 3 or 4 weeks, and then Chris Brown goes out. So now both of your starting guards are not there. So probably just as well that they're not playing a game Saturday. It's just get one more practice. And I don't know, I got the sense with what Clay said at the end of practice was he was really happy to get through a practice safe and sound to some extent and not get anybody hurt, and that might have made the difference in choosing not to go full pads today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It seemed like that was kind of the reasoning, though not explicitly said. It was interesting, though. Helton kind of said, as far as injury report, nothing really to report. And then our own shotgun asked, well, what about Andrew Vorhees? He wasn't here today. And Helton kind of goes, oh, yeah, he actually had a little meniscus that got scoped. So they went ahead and had that surgery done already. He's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks just to get that clear before they start PRPs in June. So, and then Tyler Petite is out with a hamstring, I believe. And then, then Jakari Godfrey also came out today with a hamstring. So, like you said, guys are kind of getting injured at this point of spring. I think it was a smart call to kind of go, not full pads. And then, as we said, the spring game is not going to be a game at all. It's going to be a spring practice, an unlimited one at best.
Yeah, and then we're looking forward, to August. And it was interesting. The NCAA changed the rules this year. And last year, you could, basically figure on the start of practice essentially was when did you start games and when do you start school and how many days can you, and most teams were going 5 weeks before practice, and most teams starting in July. There were teams that were having trouble coming to Pac-12 Media Days because they were already practicing, and USC started in July. Well, this year everybody's starting August 3rd, and even though the first game is September 1st, you essentially have 4 weeks, not 5 weeks. So how that impacts what USC is going to do, how it impacts there's nobody here that doesn't mention there's a quarterback coming in the summer, and he's going to be involved in what happens with USC, and that maybe even impact a little bit. But there's more of that kind of thinking today than what actually happened on the field. I guess the one thing is we don't ever see the scores or the results. They have some special teams competition for Coach Baxter, and you get the green jerseys out for the scout special team guys and all that kind of thing. And we did get to see Chase McGrath, 50-yard field goal. I think he might have gotten some benefit of the wind behind him. Kick with all the players around him trying to harass him and all that, and he kicked it through, winning the special teams competition for his team. So we we don't really get to always know exactly what they're doing when they're huddling up and they're talking and going over all those scores. But it was a nice way to, for the special teams guys to finish up with, a 50-yard under pressure field goal in kind of, difficult conditions.
Mm-hmm. Like you said earlier, we're kind of looking ahead at this point in spring. As far as the August 3rd start date, how does that affect the team as far as fatigue? Because I think that extra week did factor in. Granted, the team had no bye week, but and as far as JT Daniels, how does that all work out with having one less week there?
I think just looking at it selfishly, I think 5 weeks was probably longer than we needed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think 4 weeks gets you focused. Now, what it does is you're going to get 7 or 8 practices to install everything and compete and work out who the guys are in the depth chart, and then you're going to take those next 2 weeks, and they're going to do a mock game prep week and then a game prep week, and so that's going to compact things a little bit. That might not be a bad thing. To get that focus to where you do what you have to be able to do. I do think it's kind of a benefit to be playing UNLV here in the opener. The flip side of that is then you go to Stanford and Texas the next 2 weeks. But I would guess that my hope would be that they maybe do less game prep in week 3, and spend maybe week 4, getting for UNLV, but consider the UNLV week also kind of a game prep week, and maybe the 5th week of summer practice, as opposed to that would be probably how because in high school, if you're a high school coach, they always schedule scrimmages at the end of summer workouts, and you don't want to downplay UNLV, but I think you can look at that as that kind of an opener. It's what most teams in the country do.
Yeah.
USC hasn't always done that, but I think that might be how you look at it. Now, the big question is, if you got a quarterback situation, let's say your freshman just coming in, brand new guy, is good enough to be the guy. What do you do in the UNLV game? Do you split reps? Do you bring him in next, or do you say you're the guy, you start and you play the whole game because we need you week 2 and week 3? It'll be an interesting puzzle for them to solve, and we know how difficult it was 2 years ago to solve that puzzle. So it'll certainly be an interesting storyline when they, because he's basically going to have 2 weeks. If you're JT Daniels, you got 2 weeks to make, the first depth chart, and how do you do that? Or do you make, a guy like that? Do you make him second on the depth chart? But I don't know. I think I have no idea how that's going to go.
Yeah, those are the million-dollar questions, I think, at this point. But coming back to this spring, it was interesting. I talked to Brandon Pili today, and I was asking him about the competition with Tufele, and he said, it's looking right now, we're both so talented that we might both be on the line, and if Marlon Tuipulotu is healthy, they might work a way to have all 3 down there. So what do you think the D-line will start to shape up as we go forward toward fall camp? Yeah,
I'm all for that. When you look at those 3, it's been a long time since they've had 3 young defensive linemen come in here that athletic, that able to really contribute. I think. I know that they're working them both at the 1 technique and the 3 technique, and then you throw Marlon in there, and I know Jay may be able to to move out a little bit, but that's some real some talent, some quick athletes, some big strong athletes. You just like to see as many of those kids on the field as much as they can be on the field, and I think that's and one of the things that's different about this defense. You had to go through all the NCAA limitations with scholarships and numbers, and the famous upset of Stanford where they basically played 12 guys on defense. That's not the case anymore. They've got a lot of guys that can play, a lot of young guys, and getting those young guys ready to play. But I like the idea that they're multi-positioning these guys so you could play them together. I talked to Levi Jones today, and he's definitely both an inside and an outside guy, and he said whichever gets me on the field sooner. That's what I want to play. So I like it, get your talent on the field and figure out what's the best way to use them to get them on the field.
But do you think Clancy Pendergast will actually do that, have that rotation to figure out who's the best on the field, or do you think he has his guys already in his mind?
I think he's thinking those thoughts. I think they're coaching it. I think the push comes to shove when you get into a game. If somebody maybe doesn't completely understand, you've got guys that have been here 3 years playing in the system, and you get guys that are new to the system, and do you get a little, I think that's when it happens. Do you get a little gun shy? You got Talanoa, Hafanga or Kanai Maaga, and they're so talented, and yet are they going to be perfect? This is they've had one spring, as opposed to the guys that had 3 years. How do you bring that all together? How do you get that blend where you feel totally confident that you can put those guys on the field? I know they're trying to probably make it a little more simple so that it isn't so much thinking before the play, because you don't want guys thinking a lot on defense. You just want them to be able to play. But how they do that is going to be real interesting. Those two really look like you got to take a look at getting them on the field.
When you make an interception like Ajene Harris did, he had a big scrum around him today. Maybe that's because of the play, but what did he have to say today?
Well, I mean, he said they're really doing a better job coaching him to play the ball. And that last year they did a lot of drills, but they didn't do a lot of drills with the ball. And they didn't play the ball very well. I mean, all the way through the year, especially like the Stanford game. Stanford comes back on a few plays at the end where USC's guys just did not play the ball well. And the thing is, they've got athletes, and they've got, like Ajene was a high school quarterback and wide receiver, and so he's got all those ball skills already. But what they're doing now is, I think the discipline is there. One of the things that helps Ajene on that play is he knows where the ball is. He knows that Jack Sears probably put a little too much air under it, and that he's going to have a play on it. And there were times last year when you didn't get the sense that the defensive backs really knew where the ball was, that they might have been playing the man. And Clay is giving them credit, is they're also doing a better job of reading receivers' eyes and reacting to the ball by watching their eyes, when the ball is almost there. But that's one of the things I've liked about what we're seeing with Ronnie Bradford and the cornerbacks, is that just they're playing the ball better. Last year, I just didn't think they paid enough attention to making plays on the ball, and they know they're doing that. They have to do that, and they feel like they've gotten a lot better doing it.
Well, Helton said the other day that the DBs are the strongest group this spring. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? The penultimate practice of spring?
No, at least you won't be able to say that again for till the end of August, I guess. You can say that at let's see, what would that be? August 29th or 30th, something like that. You'll be able to say that. I think they're kind of just sort of cruising in here a little bit. I mean, without a spring game, with a few people, that aren't going to be there. Now it's all about what are you going to do in the summer, and how ready are you going to be when you get here in August. I don't know that anybody has a sense that Saturday means all that much. I also think it's interesting, you're not hearing much about the quarterback battle anymore, are you?
Nope.
It's just sort of gone poof. It's, we'll see. And you talk to people about the quarterbacks, and they pretty much, like the players on the team, all make note of the fact that, well, JT's going to be here in the summer. So I think it's just totally open now at this point.
Yep. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the penultimate practice of spring. So it's a fun word to say. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.